recording. Go ahead.
Our mission: Helping Parents Heal is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents to become shining light parents by providing support and resources to aid in the healing process. We go a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and evidence for the afterlife in a non-dogmatic way. Affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background. Attendance today at this meeting is voluntary, and we are here for the benefit of learning from and sharing with other parents whose child has passed away. It is understood that our discussions are intended to be confidential and not designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers to allow parents to be informed about many possible ways to heal, to connect with their children, and to learn about the afterlife. The views expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect those of Helping Parents Heal, and we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. You're muted, Elizabeth. Unmute yourself. There you go.
I dropped my telephone. It made a lot of noise, so I muted myself. Okay, let's go ahead and I'll introduce Paige by reading her bio. Again, I feel very grateful because I've known Paige for quite some time. We met early on in this journey. She was our Boise, Idaho affiliate leader, and she also came to our conference, which was wonderful to have her there. Paige's spiritual awakening came abruptly and forcefully after her 23-year-old son, Bryan, was murdered in September 2008. Just as the only world she'd ever known was shattered, a new world opened, a world filled with hope, spirit, and love, a world that allowed her not only to continue having a relationship with her son, but also her own true self into being, opened her own true self into being, Paige is dedicated to helping people who have experienced a profound loss, especially the loss of a child, face and release their emotions and find a way to joyfully connect with their loved one in spirit. She is the author of Choose to Believe, a beautiful book that shares her after-death experiences with Bryan and encourages the reader to make connections with their loved ones after death. Our loved ones are not lost. They are not gone. We can still have a relationship with them. Paige is a certified grief recovery specialist, an intuitive grief coach, and a level 2 Reiki practitioner. She is also a life coach certified through Mary Morrissey's Dreambuilder program. A former Helping Parents Heal affiliate leader in Boise, Idaho, Paige is now a Helping Parents Heal caring listener and lives with her husband, Dwayne. They love to travel and spend as much time as they can with their 2 remaining children and 5 grandchildren. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Paige Lee.
Thank you. Hi. Thanks, Elizabeth, for that. You're so sweet. I just love you. And Irene, thank you also for having me here tonight. I'm really excited to be with everybody. Hello, everybody. It's so nice to see you here. I'm not looking at names or faces because it distracts me, and I want to try to stay on course, but I just want to welcome you all and thank you so much for joining to hear what I have to say. And I have a lot to say. So people that know me know that I have a lot to say. And what I mostly want to do is let you know from my heart to your heart that that you're not alone and that you can survive what is probably the biggest or one of the biggest tragedies of your lifetime, and that you can still find joy in your life again someday, that this is possible for all of us, and that you can still have a relationship with your child and that you can communicate with your child. I don't know how many of you on this call tonight believe that, but I'm here to tell you that it's true. And my book that Elizabeth mentioned, I appreciate that. lays out the steps that I took toward reaching that goal, toward that mission of finding my son. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But I want to tell you about Bryan, because first and foremost, I am a soul, as you are a soul, and we're only here in human form, as you all know. And what we really are is spirit. And it's really powerful to try to remember that. And even this evening, if you can just kind of take a deep breath and just kind of let all your worries from the day go by and just kind of relax into this conversation tonight. I encourage you to ask questions in the chat room. I know Irene and Elizabeth are going to be monitoring that. So anything you want to know, you feel free to ask me. But beyond spirit, I am human and I am here in physical form, and I'm Bryan's mom, Bryan Frost. Bryan Frost is my son. He was my son on this physical earth for 23 years. He was my only living child. I am very blessed to have two children of my heart, I call them, which are my stepchildren. And I do have, 5 now beautiful grandchildren through my stepkids. So we're very blessed in that way. Little children bring so much joy into one's life, don't they? It's endless joy with them around. I lost babies though after Bryan. I had Bryan in 2008, and then after him, I had a couple of miscarriages, and I had a stillborn. My daughter Jamie died in the womb at 6 months of pregnancy. So that was my last experience with trying to be pregnant. So Bryan was perfect. I'm like, I've got my Bryan, I'm good, and so we carried on. And of course, he wasn't perfect, but we had a great life together. We were very close, as I know you all, most of you probably, were close to your children. Bryan, in some sense, was my soulmate, not in a weird kind of physical way, but in a soul to soul way. We are soulmates. And I know now what I didn't know all of those years prior to his death was that we had a pact. We made a pact to live this life together and to serve in the roles that we served, to help each other, so that we could be here today to help you. And so I really, honestly, I believe that's our mission. I believe that my son knew that he was going to die young. I believe that I always knew that he was going to die young. And in fact, he had had several opportunities to pass earlier in his life that he did not take. And so thank goodness he stayed for 23 years, because it was really a blessing to have him present in my life. So Bryan was very driven to achieve everything that he could possibly achieve. And he was just on warp speed the entire time, just like do this and get this and, receive this diploma and receive this, accreditation. And he was an outstanding student. He was a 4.0 student. He received 5 nominations to military academies. He chose West Point, and he went off to explore that life. He didn't like it. So he came home and he applied to University of Southern California. And he finished his economics degree there. He decided he loved filmmaking, being exposed to that in Los Angeles and at USC. They have one of the most accredited film schools in the country. And he was accepted. So just that very next semester, he went back and he completed his first year of film school. And then that summer, he traveled to Pakistan, where he had a friend that lived in Pakistan, because they had met at the international dorm at the school. And they made a movie, they were in the process of making a movie. They ended up being shut down. But the reason I tell you this story is, while they were there, Bryan, they worked in 110 degree heat trying to get this movie done. And then when they got shut down, they traveled up into the Himalayan mountains, which was frightening for me, for him to be so far away and to not be reachable by phone, but they did it. And he found God. He found God while he was there, which I don't know if you can relate to this, Elizabeth, at all, with Morgan, being the climber that he was and being in these beautiful, beautiful places. because that's where I found God too, is in the mountains. So that's where Bryan ultimately found God, which later, after he died, was such a huge relief for me, because I didn't know up until being told that by his friend whether or not he believed in God. So, so when he died, I was terrified that, did he go to heaven? Did he not go to heaven? I didn't know what any of it meant. I didn't have a spiritual belief system already that that I was strong with. But I'll tell you quickly how he died, although it's the least important part of the story. But he died by walking home one evening from a bar. They were walking just off campus at USC, and they were walking home to their apartment around 1:30 or 2 a.m. and ran across an apartment building and kind of made just a little bit of a ruckus. There was a gate standing open, and Bryan swung the gate shut. Rather an innocent act, I guess, but it turned out to be what got him killed, because a man at the apartment building didn't like the noise and came running out, and one thing led to another, and the man ended up stabbing Bryan. So it was one stab, one fatal wound, and he died in the ambulance, which, God bless the ambulance and the paramedics. They arrived very quickly. It just was a fatal wound. There was nothing that they could do. So that was September 18th, 2008. And so 12 years ago, just over 12 years ago, I don't know how many of you know my story already. I know some of you do. But 3 weeks after he died, 3 weeks, I was laying on my bed, and obviously my world was shattered. I was lost. I was confused. I didn't know where he went. And I was just consumed with questions, Bryan, where are you? Where are you? And I have to find you. And I could not conceive of a life without my son. And I know you all feel that way. And so I'm lying on my bed, afternoon, not evening. I'm not asleep. And I hear out loud, "Mom," loudly. And I hear it out loud. I couldn't believe it. I jumped up out of bed, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Bryan, where are you? Where are you?" And I'm searching and I can't see him, but I know that he still lives. So it was so huge for me. This is the moment that launched me on my spiritual journey. This is the moment that launched me on my seeking to find him. And it was the moment that everything changed in my life, everything. So I knew 3 things. When I heard him cry out, "Mom," I knew that he still lived. I knew that I could find him somehow. And I knew that I could still have a relationship with him, because that's really all I needed, right? Elizabeth, I see you nodding your head. It's like, that's all I needed, was to know that I could have a relationship with him. And years later, Bryan, I kind of channeled automatic writing, a poem that Bryan wrote, which is in my book. And he describes it as, it is a relationship. It is just as real as it was. It's just different. So I think part of this journey is understanding and realizing that our children are still our children, and we can interact with them just as we did when they were in physical form. But if we can get ourselves to that place where we choose to meet them where they are now, instead of insisting that they come to us in physical form, or instead of insisting that we can only have a relationship with them, if their body and physicality is the same as when they were here, if we can choose to meet them halfway, and get closer to where they are now and who they are now, as light and as spirit and as soul, then, you guys, everything breaks wide open. And that's what happened for me. When I heard Bryan call out, "Mom," I honestly, I got up and I ran to my bookshelf, and I'm like, I don't have one book about this. I don't know anything about the afterlife. And so I went to Barnes and Noble, and I'm just like, what should I pick? What should I pick? And the first book that almost jumped off the shelf for me was Raymond Moody's. I'm sorry, not Raymond Moody, George Anderson, who was the speaker at your conference that I attended, Lessons from the Light, and some of Raymond Moody's books as well, and a whole host of them, all of which are listed in the back of my book. All of the books that resonated with me, that made my journey easier, I've listed in the back of my book to try to make your journey a little easier too. So I was off, and from there, I ran across, you know, as spirit would, as spirit does all the time. They listen and they know what we want and they lay opportunities at our feet. And so it's up to us to have open eyes, open heart, open mind, and to say yes, to recognize these opportunities when they're presented to us so that we can say yes and so that more can be revealed, right? So that more can unfold before us on our journey. So I'm off and running and I'm like, I need to know everything I can know about the afterlife. And yes, I was that kid in the, you know, front of the room that's always being like, well, I have one more question, teacher, right? And everybody in the back of the room is saying, tell her to shut up. But that's just who I am, right? I always want to know more and I want to understand. And so I want you to understand. And so in my book, I laid out step by step the journey that I took from that place of absolute desperation and despair and almost suicidal to the place where I am today, which honestly is a place filled with joy and hope and faith and belief that all things are possible. All things are possible with God. All things are possible with spirit. And when I say God, I realize that you might have a different version of God. You might have a different word for God, and that's okay, whatever it is for you. For me, I choose the word God, so I hope that's okay with you. But the reason we wrote the book was to help you hopefully make your journey a little bit easier. And so we lay out the steps that we took. My first steps after buying books and learning what I could about where Bryan could possibly be, the universe laid at my feet an opportunity to see a psychic. And I had never seen a psychic. I didn't know anything about psychics. I had never met one. I had never had a desire to meet one. And you know, lo and behold, I don't want to reveal the whole story because it's a good story and it's in the book, but you know, ran across my path that this woman that I know, who when I saw her did not know that Bryan had died. So that's fun, right? When you're in the grocery store and they say, how's Bryan? And your heart sinks and you just want to fall to the floor. And you're like, oh my gosh, Bryan died. Didn't you know? You know? And oh, I can feel some of you have experienced that and know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think it's that fear that that's going to happen that keeps us at home in those early years and that keeps us kind of, I would have panic attacks every time I left the house. So this was actually a rare occurrence for me to leave the house to begin with. But I'm glad I did because it led me to her, which led me to this psychic, which led me to, oh my gosh, somebody can talk to him, right? So I had heard him out loud, but I had not heard him again. I had not been able to, you know, I talked to him, but I don't know if he can hear me. So the fact that I had found somebody who, without a doubt in my mind, could understand what Bryan was saying to him, and he described him, and he named the two boys that were with Bryan that night, and their names had never been released in the press at all, right? Like, how is that even possible? It's possible because it's real. And that's the only conclusion that I could make. And so I signed up for psychic development classes. I learned how to open up my intuition. I started learning Reiki and got certified in Reiki. And then just one thing led to another, right? So that has been my journey, is seeking, becoming a seeker, really of everything, because like I said, I knew nothing. So becoming a seeker of everything that I didn't understand and trying to figure it out. And how can I do that? And how can I do that? And how can I still have a relationship with Bryan? And how can I communicate with him? So when I did that, when I took just those basic steps, and then things started to happen and signs started to come in. And I mean, ladybugs, I just want you to read the book and learn all about the ladybugs. But Bryan sends us ladybugs and all the crazy fun things were happening, the, you know, lights flashing and TV going on and off. And I call that the fun stuff in the first couple of years, because I think most of you may know that it is easier for spirit to manipulate electronics, I think, than to come into our human energy. That's my belief anyway. So we experience all of that. And then just kind of as time goes on, the connections became deeper and became, you know, I don't want to say more real because the rest of it was real too, but just more meaningful. more private, because the communication is mostly just between Bryan and I directly now. It's not something that other people witness so much. So we've come a long way, and it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been quick. It hasn't been, I mean, I was a hard learner. I was, in spite of everything I'm telling you tonight, because that's all true. But at the same time, there's this part of this, my left brain, which is very strong with me. This part of this left brain that wouldn't let go of the doubt and wouldn't let go of the fear and all of these things that are associated, with the afterlife. And, when we can't prove something to be true, then sometimes it's difficult to wrap our brain around it. And what I learned on my journey, actually, Spirit gave me the message one day in meditation that I just needed to stop, calm down, take a deep breath, and that I just needed to choose to believe. Choose to believe that it's all real. And that is why I was looking for my book. That is how my book was named, was Choose to Believe. Choose to believe that it really is Bryan. Choose to believe that it's him sending all those signs. Choose to believe that it is him talking to me. Choose to believe that, when I receive these hugs from him that absolutely take over my entire body, that it really is him, and that I can trust that and I can believe in that. And that when I got to that point where I believed, that's when I found joy. That's really the moment that I found joy. So my journey was one of seeking, being curious about everything, asking questions about everything, because I wanted to know more and more and more. I was determined that I would find him. I mean, I was not going to give up. I was determined to find my son. And I know you are too. I've talked to many of you as a caring listener. I know that you want to find your children. And I'm just here to tell you that you can, you guys, you can do it. It takes hard work. I'm not going to lie, right? Do you guys agree? It takes hard work. It's not easy, but it's so worth it. The rewards on the other end are beyond your wildest dreams. That's what I'm here to tell you. So the other part of it, though, kind of talking about the hard work part of it, is it's not always easy, even though it's sometimes fun, most of the time fun. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes it's just like, tongue and groove, right? Just boom, boom, boom. Everything's nice and perfect. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes we have to cry. And I cried, you guys, buckets and buckets and buckets and buckets of tears. I'm not kidding you. I sat on my floor. I drank wine every day. I became quite a heavy drinker, which I'm not and never really was. But okay, just a little bit of a party girl, but not really bad. And I would just drink. I was drinking a bottle of wine every night. And one night I sat on my living room floor and I'm crying, and I've got the music from the funeral is blaring all around me. I did this all night long, every night for weeks, and just that music blaring, and I'm crying. And I'm like, where are you? Where? And I came this close to like, okay, I'm going to make a deal with the devil, right? And I didn't even know what that meant, but I'm like, whew, I have gone too far. Like I don't even know if I believe in that, but I'm not gonna go there. I have to be better than this. And I understood in that moment that it didn't have to be this way, that I could choose, there's that word choose again. I could choose a different route to take. And that's when I kind of reeled things in and, put my big girl panties on, as my sister-in-law always likes to say, and decided that I was going to be, I was going to take a different course. So it's conscious suffering is what it is. It's having to say yes to your suffering so that you can get through it. We have to say yes to it before we can transcend it. And that's just the truth of it. I'm sorry. I know you don't want to. I didn't want to either. I fought it. I mean, I still fight it, right? Whenever some kind of hidden pain comes up and I'm like, nope, not going there. I've done my work. I have done my inner child work. I don't have to do that. I've done all my grieving about Bryan. And, but there it is. Whoops. And the pain's not going to go away till I look at it in the face and acknowledge it and understand where it's coming from and accept it, and then let it move through me. And that's really the way. To me, that's really the way. So am I talking too much?
No, but we have lots of questions. Oh my gosh, Paige, I have to tell you, your energy is so infectious, and
Oh,
everyone is saying the nicest things. I just have to read what I wrote on in your book
yes,
because
please.
I really believe it. Choose to Believe is a perfect example of the uplifting energy that Paige exudes to all those around her. Through this work, she has proven that love lives forever and that our loved ones in spirit are still right here, cheering us on and encouraging us to move forward into a more positive, purpose-driven life, knowing that each breath that we take guides us closer to our children in spirit. I know that Bryan is very proud of his mama. And when I wrote that, I wrote it right after I read this. It's just, the whole book is so uplifting, just like the way that you're speaking. It's just such an important thing for people to understand that this journey doesn't have to be sad. It can be sad in the beginning,
Yeah.
and people are talking about they love the fact that you talk about that wine and listening to those songs and being
Yeah.
able to get to roll around on the floor and be unhappy. That's completely normal. But
Yeah.
being able to pick ourselves up and make our kids proud and move forward and know that they're with us is the most important part. But there are so many questions that people are asking you. So and then just comments. So let me just try to get through some of them. um, so Christine saying, sometimes I expect to have the same relationship with my daughter, but I am trying to listen to more. I love Paige and her comparisons. Beautiful. Irene was saying, I feel as though she's telling my story. Love this. Melissa's saying, I agree with Irene. I think it's so similar to many of our stories. We lose and then we begin seeking and we finally find, in capital letters. Katie's asking, do you recommend a particular psychic development class? So I think that would be a great way to start. Do you have any that you have really benefited from?
Well, so I took my classes from a local man in a community near mine. And so, obviously that wouldn't work unless you live in Boise. Hit me up and I'll let you know. But I also have taken classes from Suzanne Wilson, who I know you know well. And I don't think she's doing live classes anymore, but I think she has them on recorded classes.
Yeah, she's
Is that
doing
correct?
one in January. The next development class will be in January.
Is it
So
live?
no, it's on Zoom.
It's
By
on,
Zoom.
okay, yeah. No, but I mean, is she live or is it pre-recorded?
Oh, no, she'll be live on Zoom.
Oh,
It'll be
yeah, you guys sign up for that. I'm not kidding you. I got so much. I feel like a lot of people do pre-recorded things. And for
oh,
me anyway, because I'm so, interactive, those are a little more difficult for me. I get distracted and wander away. But when somebody's live in front of me, Suzanne's great, you guys. Honestly, she really took me kind of to that next level. And I love her sitting in the power meditation, which you guys will love too. So she's great. The intuitive grief coach training that I took was with a woman by the name of Sue Frederick. And Sue wrote many books, and that's a wonderful training as well. Now she does only do the pre-recorded versions now. She doesn't do them live anymore, but she's fantastic too. And so if you're a little more attentive to a screen than I am, then you I'm sure would benefit from that as well. So other
well,
than that, I would just say to seek out your own community and see who's out there.
there's in the newsletter from day before yesterday, there's a meditation that's a free meditation that Suzanne Wilson has put in there. So it might be helpful to listen to that. And it's up at the top right corner. Iris is saying, it seems so many of us follow the same path to find our children. It makes me feel in good company and inspired to know those who walk before me. And it really is incredible. I feel so grateful that so many of these shining light moms and dads have written wonderful books that help others. Kathy's saying, I just love your energy, Paige. I relate to everything that you are saying. And then Nancy saying keeps us home in those early days. How long did you stay home? How long do you think that it took before you kind of rounded that corner?
Well, the when I saw the psychic the first time, it was, I want to say November, so it was only 2 months later. But I probably spent 6 weeks solid home where I did nothing. You guys, I mean, I was I was a successful real estate broker. I just, gave all my deals to my coworker and said, here, and I just stayed home and I cried. And like I said, I drank a little bit, and then I wrote, I gathered up everything I could find of Bryan's from preschool on. I'm not kidding you. And I organized it all. I'm a 2 birth path, if anybody knows what that means. But I organized it all by year. So I had pictures and report cards and everything. I have boxes of it. I don't know what to do with any of it now. Nobody wants it but me, So I suppose maybe they'll put it in my grave when I go. But anyhow, well, maybe anyhow. So I did all that. I scanned photos. So I had them, this was 12 years ago. So I scanned them. So I had them in electronical format. I took all of our old video recordings and had them put onto DVD, found a man who donated all of that for me. So that's what I consumed myself with. And it's kind of interesting because we were going through a trial at the same time, or we were going through a search for a killer, right? So there was like 2 or 3 weeks where, this killer was loose on the streets, he and his girlfriend. LAPD did an amazing job. I mean, I don't even remember when he was caught, but I think it was maybe 2 weeks. It was a pretty tense 2 weeks. But so while I'm launching on this journey, we're awaiting this big trial in LA, which was expedited to the point where we had that trial in July of 2019, which is unheard of in a big court like the LA court system, to have a trial within a year's time of the actual killing. So anyhow, he is in prison and he is serving his sentence. So, there was that going on at the same time. But to answer the question, in the beginning, I just immersed myself in everything that Bryan was so that I could hold on to his memories forever.
That's absolutely beautiful. So Andrea is saying great energy. Wondering what kind of signs does she get from her son and how often? Could you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Oh, I love talking about signs. Can I tell you one of the best signs we ever got was when, my granddaughter was 10 years ago, because she's 12 and she was 2 at the time, and they had moved to Salt Lake for a short while. And we had all been outside making a snowman, and we came into the house and we're all sitting around the kitchen table waiting for, our daughter to prepare the hot chocolate. And she brings it to us and sits down. And we're just sitting there drinking hot chocolate. And all of a sudden, little Taylor says, "Hey, everybody's drinking hot chocolate except that guy over there." And she points at the empty chair at the table. And we just, like, I have chills as I tell you that story. It's like we all knew instantly and immediately that it was Bryan. So, like, if that's not proof in the pudding, I don't know what is. But Bryan sends me ladybugs, and it's all in the book. I won't take the time to tell you the story, but he sends me ladybugs. He sends me music. I think my most profound connections with him are in meditation. I've had some absolutely amazing. If you guys don't meditate, please take it up. If I had to pick one thing that was bigger than all other things, even though everything played a part, I would say meditation for me was the number one thing that allowed me to strengthen that connection to Bryan.
That's beautiful. So Christina's saying the love energy is so beautiful, exciting. Choose to believe is correct. The ego mind always says that you want more, but something more concrete. But this is just being able to choose to believe is a very important thing. Lindsay's saying, I love her enthusiasm, honesty, and hair. She loves your hair. You do have great hair.
Oh, thank you.
Christina's saying absolutely hard work to keep positive in the journey as you're learning, because we still want to hold our kids. Ron is saying amazing, Paige. Do you think that there is more of an awakening today than when Bryan crossed in 2008?
more of an awakening? Explain, Rhonda.
Today.
Hi, Rhonda. I
So,
know Rhonda. Like for me, or
no, just in the world today, I
in the
believe.
world?
Yes.
You
Although
know,
I'm assuming.
That's probably what she means. I don't know. I don't pretend to be a big spiritual guru, but I'm going to say yes. I think so, because I think the more we all share our light, we're raising the vibration around us, and that's really our job, is to share heart to heart, and with authenticity, our truth. And I'll tell you a story. When I first started writing this book, I had a lot of chapters in that book that when I got down to really writing out the meat of the chapter, I couldn't do it because I wasn't an expert in that, right? And so I felt not authentic about that. So I had to reel it in and only talk about those things that I had experience with directly, because that was my truth. So I think the more we do that, and we're our authentic selves, and we share that with the world, yes, Rhonda, I believe that the vibration. Would you read the comment before that one, because I had something I wanted to say on that.
Yes, definitely. Okay. So before Rhonda's, absolutely hard work to keep positive in the journey as you are learning, because we still want to hold our kids. Is that the one that you're
Yes.
talking
Yes.
about?
I
Okay.
just wanted to acknowledge that, because that is absolutely true. And that's why I say it's not easy. And there are some days where you just can't get out of bed and you cry, cry, cry. I mean, I would sit in front of the mirror and just sob, and I would look at this just grief-stricken face. And I was just like, who are you? Like, I don't even know what to do now if I'm not Bryan's mom. Like, who am I? What am I supposed to do with the rest of my life? And I'm just saying, there's still hard days. If you guys saw me at my book launch, I cried at my book launch. I mean, there are some, that was the 12th anniversary of his passing. So still 12 years later, I cry. Of course I do. But more often now when I cry, it's like that pain that she's talking about, that deep longing for them. It does ease up. It doesn't heal. Time doesn't heal anything, but time allows the pain to ease up. That's my feeling about it.
That's beautiful. So Anna's saying, I love her sincerity. Claudia is just talking about that this book is a must read. I can tell that Claudia's read it.
Thank you.
Not only for parents who have lost their children, but for everyone to understand that our life on earth is not all. It encourages people to ask questions that we are afraid to ask about ourselves, to look deep into ourselves, and to also learn to trust our intuition. IT also gives hope that there is still joy after losing someone we love, and that they are still with us. Thank you for writing your story with so much honesty and love. And that's coming from someone who's also incredibly intuitive and inspired by her beautiful daughter, Emma. Tina is
Claudia
saying,
Ardeline. Hi, Claudia.
yes.
I love those videos of Emma. They're the best.
Oh, I know. Isn't
Yes.
she amazing?
Oh,
I
I
agree.
know. Yeah.
If anybody hasn't seen those videos of Emma, you have to go to Claudia's video and click on the bottom. There are beautiful videos of
That girl took my heart. I'm not kidding you. I wrote Claudia and I'm like, oh my gosh, she just has my heart. She's a
Well,
beautiful spirit.
she has all of our hearts, as
Yeah.
well as her sister Lizzie, who's also equally incredible and just had a birthday recently. And then Tina is saying, thank you for admitting to the fact that you cried and drank wine every night. I'm still there, but I'm trying to move forward and heal.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think we've all been there. We've all been there.
Okay. And it's okay. And that's really, it's okay. Whatever it is for you today is okay. Tomorrow you get up and you make maybe a different choice, and maybe not. Maybe you need to stay where you're at for another day or week or month. Whatever it is for you is okay. And one of the things that I tried to point out in the book is that although we do, and you guys all know, and you're mentioning, bringing to light that we all have such similar stories, right? Like I can relate to your story, you can relate to my story, we all relate together, but each of our journeys is unique. and it's unique to us, and our stories are unique. And so even though there's so much similarity, and I felt compelled to write the book because of that, right? Because people that are brand new in those early grieving days and months, they don't know that it's going to be okay someday, that they're going to be okay someday. So that's why we need to tell our story and to share our light with others. But I forgot my train of thought.
Well, I want to ask you something very quickly.
Yeah.
People are asking if you are a medium. I don't believe you're a medium, but I know you're a life coach. So do you do coaching sessions with people? Do you, is that something that you take clients for?
So I started to train as a medium. I was in a development circle, if you guys know what that is, for a year, where we started with psychometry, which is holding another person's piece of jewelry. I don't have any jewelry on, holding a piece of jewelry or an item that belonged to the deceased person, or even to the reader, to the person that you're reading, and then you would just get whatever you get from that, and you would tell the other person. So we started with psychometry. We evolved into doing readings for each other, and then we evolved into doing readings for other people that we would invite into the group. So I studied with Suzanne, as I said, but honestly, what I like is in my intuitive grief coaching, I tap into the spirit of the child or the loved one who's crossed over, and I can tap into that spirit, and I can get a little bit of information and share that. And then really my job is to teach you how to do that for yourself. So that's what I'm about. And the thought of being a medium scared the heck out of me. It did. It feels like so much responsibility, and plus I was so afraid, what if I was wrong? But anyhow, so no, I'm not a medium, but yes, I am going to start doing coaching classes. So they're kind of in the final stages. I used to do different levels of coaching. I used to do grief recovery coaching, and then I would do Dreambuilder coaching. And now I'm really only doing the one, which is a little bit of numerology to help you understand why you're here, why you're in the relationships you're in, why this might have happened in your life, give you the tools how to move through it, and then teach you how to make that connection. Thank you for asking. I'll post
Well,
that on my website as soon as they're ready.
yes, please, and we'll put it underneath the video as well. But I also wanted to just say, when I say that you are not a medium, I meant a working medium, because we're all mediums, every single one.
Yes, that's right. We are
and
all.
I don't ever want anybody to believe that we aren't capable of all being mediums. It's just a question of working at it. And it is a huge responsibility. I feel very grateful to all of these people who are willing to step out of the box and deliver messages. And anyway, let me keep going through these. Lover style, Christine is saying, since we stay in pain of emotion, I think I feel I am closer to my daughter, but who wants that pain? Since as we stay in the pain of emotion, I feel that I'm closer to my daughter, but who wants that pain? Better to be joyful as we try to connect, which is true. Sherry is saying, I am so glad you are being sincere, and that it was work. It was also work. That is what I'm finding, that it is just soaking up everything. And it reminds me of being in college or something. Love, love, love your honesty and your energy.
Thank you.
And Tina is saying 4 days until my son's 1-year angelversary. So that's a very, very short amount of time. So Tina, we're all with you. I know that some of the other moms and dads on here are early on in their journeys as well. Obviously, Paige has been on this journey for 12 years. So I've been on it for 11. It gets easier and easier, though. It really does. And let's see. Suzanne is saying, I now know why I was listening to Robin Miller's Transcendence all afternoon, which is, yeah, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful recording. I love that. Robin Miller is an angel musician that is just so inspiring. So let's see. I'm just looking to see if there are questions because we don't have a lot of time and I want to make sure that we get as many. Candy's saying, my daughter was murdered in a drive-by shooting. They arrested the shooter today. How do you move past the cause and the person? Could you maybe address that for her?
So that's a two-part answer. For me, is it Claudia? Was that her name? What was her name?
Candy.
Murder is hard. And I talk briefly about murder in the book. To me, murder is as hard as suicide can be hard. It's all hard, right? I mean, it's really, we can't compare one death to another, but murder's difficult because somebody else took the life of our child, right? Somebody that we don't know took the life of our child. And so we can, if we allow that, if we allow our anger to sit with that, then it's more difficult, I believe, to get past the why and the how of it. What I say in the book and what I believe is, and Candy, you might not like this, but it's not about how they died. It really isn't. The fact is that they have died, and that's just, I am sorry. It's just they died. But guess what? They're not gone. They're right here. I can feel, you guys, do you guys ever get this like tingling up at the top right side of your head? Mine's going crazy right now. And that's my son. It's my son. I see somebody in there nodding and smiling, and I don't know who you are, but that's so that's where you want to get to. And if you can look beyond how they died and like I said, meet them halfway to where they are now. So it's not, and thank God the person has been caught so they can, serve what they need to serve to their God and to their society and all for the wrongdoing. The other thing though, that was interesting for me was when we were at the trial for Bryan's killer, I had a dream. I've had a couple of like what my friend Sue Frederick calls mystical dreams. And in this dream, the roles were reversed. Because, we went to this courtroom and then he's there and his family's there, his sister and his mom, and, everybody's got their people. And on one of those nights during the trial, I went back to the hotel room and I slept, and I had a dream that the roles were reversed, that Bryan had killed her son. And I was devastated. I was devastated that my son did that to her child, and that she was gonna, she was saying to me, well, at least you get to see your child. My child's, gone. And it was this whole different perspective, absolute flip flop. And I woke up from that dream, I looked at her with new and different eyes the next day in that courtroom. And I even smiled at her. I don't think I went so far as to hug her. Probably that would have been great if I could have done that. But anyhow, I tell you that because if we can look beyond that and just, if you can really get to that place where we're all soul beings and we can't understand the how and the why of it, but if we can move past that into, okay, now what do I do? How can I find my beloved? How can I meet them in this space so that I can still have a relationship with that? What I would tell you, Candy, would be to focus on that, and let him finish his journey. He's on I assume it's he or she, they're on a journey too, and they have their journey to follow, and that's not our business.
That's beautifully said. Oh my gosh.
It's
Paige,
so hard to say
beautiful.
things like that though.
And I just love that dream that you had, because it
Oh.
really, really must have been something that was so helpful to you. And
Yeah.
Andrea's asking if you forgave the person that changed everything, but I think that what you said really, really lets us know exactly how you feel about that, and it's beautiful. Let's see. There are just so many questions. I want to get through as many as I can. Lynn is saying, talk about your meditation at the HPH conference. Could you do that?
Really, that must be my friend Lynn. What are you doing up, Lynn?
Lynn Walker, yes.
Oh my gosh, she's in England, you guys. It's like 3 a.m. there or something. I don't know if I can tell it quickly, but let me try. Elizabeth, do you want me to?
So you have 8 minutes. Maybe we'll just end on this. That would be wonderful, actually. And maybe we'll have to have you come back and answer more questions. So go ahead.
Okay, well, so wasn't it Dr. Mark Pitstick who led that that meditation. And so the room, it was a large meeting room, and I don't even know how many people were in that room. 200 maybe, Irene, you think? I mean, there was a lot of people in that meeting room. Oh, you don't know which one I was in, but whatever. One of the breakouts, lots of people. He was so far up in the front of the room, I couldn't even see his features. That's how far back my friends and I were. Lynn is part of my Sun Valley Moms group, and I think there's several of them on the call today. I love you guys. And anyhow, so the meditation is isn't it Dr. Pitstick?
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
Mark? So it's his connection meditation. You can buy it on his website. It's not very expensive. I've been asked if I would give it to people, and I can't do that because it is his copyright, but you can get it from him directly.
We have it, just to break in really quickly, he has done it twice for us, and it's
Oh,
on
good.
the YouTube channel twice. So people can follow it there for no money at all. So
Okay, perfect. It is fantastic. I don't know if it was just the right time for me or what it was, but I immediately went into that meditation immediately. And, when I first started meditating, I'm not going to lie, I was terrible at it. I would just be distracted and I wanted to get up and pee or, whatever. I mean, just wanted to get up and go do something else. And then eventually I get to where, go over the bridge and through the meadow and get to the door. And then I would just start crying because I couldn't take that next step. I wasn't ready to meet Bryan in spirit form. And but I stuck with it, you guys. Every day I tried to meditate, and it took me a long time, but I eventually got to the point where I could do that. So fast forward, whatever year that was, 2016, that conference?
it was 2018. Yeah.
2018. Okay. So 2 years ago. Anyhow, I immediately went into the meditation, and all of a sudden I was aware that I was not in the room anymore. It was really, I really think I left my body, and my consciousness was pulled by spirit into my version of heaven. I was aware that I was still seated in that chair in that conference room. I could see through my left brain tears streaming down my face. I could see it. I could see my friends occasionally like looking at me. But I wasn't there. I was in this beautiful meadow with flowers. They were so big and they were so beautiful. I mean, when people say they can't describe the colors in heaven, let me tell you that is true. I can't even begin to describe to you how beautiful they were. And there were ladybugs, you guys. There were ladybugs on the flowers, and there were big ladybugs flying around in the sky, big ones. It was so incredible and so wonderful. And I was just taking all that in and enjoying that and just loving it. And then I started to feel the presence of my loved ones coming toward me. And first I saw Bryan, and then I saw my mom and my dad and my grandparents. I mean, everybody I know is everybody I have loved. That's not true. I was going to say everybody I've loved has died, and that's not true, but I have many loved ones on the other side. And they all came, and they came to me, and they wrapped me up energetically. They wrapped me up, and they started pouring their love into me. I mean, like, close your eyes for a moment and imagine that you're in this place and your loved ones are there, and they start showering you with love. And it was so intense, and it was through me and around me, and it was part of me, and it was just nonstop love, love, love. I started to cry harder in my left brain. The Paige seated in the chair in the conference room was, I mean, it was starting to physically hurt my body. And because it was so intense, the intensity of the love, I've never experienced anything like it. And I'm blessed to say I've known a lot of love in my life, but unlike anything I've ever experienced. And so it was starting to actually hurt my physical body. And so right when I kind of acknowledged that, they pulled back a little bit, and Bryan took me by the hand, and he started showing me how he flies, and the ground was the sky, and the sky was the ground, and we were floating. And then, I kind of understood, oh, we're flying. He's showing me how he flies. And he said to me, this is why I choose to stay here. This is why I don't want to come back. He said, it's all about the movement and the freedom. And then he kind of led me back, and I saw my loved ones one more time, and he reached out with his hands like this and touched my fingertips, and then just kind of gently pulled back. And then I was back in my chair. And I mean, I literally, Lynn can testify, I had tears streaming down my face, and I immediately just stopped and just wrote down everything. And so the last meditation that I talk about in my book is all of the exact words as I experienced it immediately afterward. So I don't even know if I've ever thanked him for that, but the most amazing experience I've ever had. And I'm so grateful that I was given that, because as if I didn't know before, I know now that when it's my time to go, it is going to be such pure joy. But until then, we have work to do. We have work to do. My son wrote this book with me. He wrote a lot of the book, actually. And you guys are doing such tremendous, important work. I'm so proud of you and happy for you. And that was why we held the meetings. That's why so many of you hold meetings in your communities, is so that we can share this kind of information with each other. So I'm happy to be a part of that.
Well, and we are so grateful to you, Paige. And there are so many beautiful things that are being said in the chat box. And what I'm going to do is download this, and I will send it to you so that you can hear from everyone who is saying, especially about that meditation. It's just amazing. Everything that people are saying, that it gave them chills, that it's, that I think that it's important too I'm glad that this is recorded so that I can tell Mark Pitstick to watch this and see what a profound influence you had on his life. I know that a lot of people experiencing these things, and I don't think that he necessarily gets to hear about all of them. So it is wonderful. Again, if you guys are interested in following that meditation, he has spoken to our group twice since the pandemic started, and you can go on there and just sit through it. And the first one, he talks a bit at the beginning. The second one, he really just goes right into the meditation. So anyway, I want to thank you, Paige, for coming to speak to us. I know you're going to be wonderful on Suzanne's program. People have asked about Suzanne Wilson as well. Her website is www.carefreemedium.com. They call her the Carefree Medium since she's in Carefree. And we have a lot of questions, but maybe we can get Paige to come back again and be able to help us again. But until then, thank you so much. Have an absolutely wonderful evening, everyone. And have you unmuted everybody?
Yes,
Irene?
everyone's unmuted.
Okay, so let's let everybody say thank you and goodbye to Paige.
Thank you, Paige.
Thank you.
Bye, Paige.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Paige.
Thank you.
Good night,
Have a nice
everyone.
evening.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Paige,
Thank
that
you.
was